Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm doing a bit of a different podcast. I've never done a version of this before. I'm currently live on Instagram right now, and I'm doing a live Q&A. So there's no notes for this one. This is just very much off the top of off the cup for myself. I'm looking forward to, giving you raw, real answers without any notes or thinking through it. Just as soon as it honestly comes to me, I'm going to be answering these questions. So I've already been live for about 10 minutes to give people time to ask their questions. I want to make my way through it, okay? So let's go through this. So Mrs. Princess Dev says, what does it mean when he asks you out on a second date? Good question. I guess it depends. There's so many factors to go into that. But my tips that I do say within situations like that with relationships is make sure you're very clear on what's the vision that you have for your relationship. So what does the vision of your relationship look like in the future? What does you and your partner have in terms of your health, your wealth, your relationships, your experiences, your quality of life, family? Does this person fit the vision? Because there's always going to be things that aren't quote perfect or things that you want in someone, because no one's perfect. I've got a lot of downsides to me. You're watching this right now, you've got a lot of downsides to you. So don't live in a fantasy that you're going to find the quote perfect person physically, mentally, sexually, intellectually, financially, every single little detail. But they will need to, in quotations, have the non-negotiables. Like if you've got a non-negotiable for having children, you want to figure that out early days. So when he asks you out on a second date, I would say he's interested and he wants to keep pursuing and moving to the next checkpoint. But the advice I would put on top of that is make sure you're clear on the vision for your relationship and make sure that you're communicating that early days. So and there's no, line when you should or shouldn't do it. I would say within the first, depending if you're serious about this person, like you energetically connect with them, they meet your needs from a connection level, then I would start to have those conversations pretty early on, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 dates into it. You want to, again, depending on what you're wanting, if you're looking for something serious, if you're wanting to pursue an intimate relationship, I would first of all have that vision. So sit down, pencil and paper, and write down what's the vision for your relationship. What are the non-negotiables, their health. If you're heavily religious, you probably want to have someone who shares those religious beliefs as you. If you want to have kids, do they want kids? Are they financially literate? Do they look after their finances fundamentally? Are they good with their health? Everyone's got their own non-negotiables, but again, don't however take that so extreme and live in a bit of a fantasy when you're going to just find someone who's absolutely perfect down to the detail, because everyone's got downsides to them, including myself. Okay, so great question. Let's keep moving on. I'm just going to scroll down to the next one. How to deal with rejection. Fantastic. So I teach balance. That's a big tool that I teach people, and it's learning to see how everything has its complementary opposite. Like you go to the gym. What gives you more growth? The reps that are easy or the reps that are painful? It's the reps that are painful, right? Because it's outside that comfort zone that gives you that growth. So rejection has benefits to it. And depending who's rejecting you, there's lessons within that. So how to deal with any form of pain or rejection or suffering or upset or whatever it may be, it's learning to see the complementary opposite. Because we live in a duality world where there are equal opposites to each other. There's just as many positive to negative charges in the universe. You can jump on Google and have a look at this, but I think Google, I'm paraphrasing right now, but Google the overall electrical charge of the universe, and they've done the equation for it, it equals 0. Meaning there's as many positive charges as there are negative charges. So there's just as many positives to being rejected as there are negatives. Yes, it might hurt you, but you might have learned what you don't tolerate in a relationship, or you might learn, honestly, how to toughen your skin up. That's where rejection can toughen you up. That's a benefit of being rejected. So how to deal with it is see how it's serving you. See how it's get clear on your purpose, your mission, your vision, your values, and see how that rejection is actually serving you in that area, okay? I hope that made sense. Hope you got value from that. How to respond to a husband that stole money. So that's from a tactical side of things, look into legal action, go down the legal route and make sure you've got you want to make sure that you're making decisions with the most amount of data. There's this bit of a, cliche or misperception of, entrepreneurship or business or just decision making in general is sometimes you'll see it in movies or on TV shows where the leader or the person who's making decisions, they just, as soon as something comes to him, they'll snap back with this very aggressive or I guess, urgent answer. And I used to take that belief as well. So, and it really honestly affected my business and my business progress and all that good stuff, because I had this perception that like, I've got to make a decision right now. I've got to handle it right now. I've got to be a leader and step up right now. Where now I actually do the complete opposite. If a big decision comes to me, depending on the context, like sometimes it's time urgent, you've got to make a decision then and there. But if you've got the time, go regulate your emotions, because when you're lopsided with your perception, when you're looking up, you can't look down. When you're looking down, you can't look up. Think about this. When you were in an argument with someone and you were seeing the negative, did you see in that moment all the positives to that person, how grateful you are for them, all the great things they've done for you? You weren't. You were skewed with your perceptions because you were drunk on emotions, so you only saw the negative. And vice versa, when you pedestal someone, when you idolize someone, when you infatuate with someone, you don't see their downsides. So when you're drunk on emotions, I would really encourage you to regulate your emotions. Whether that's you go meditate, go train, go spend some time with yourself, go do something that recharges your batteries, then I like to then get all the data I can. So where do I sit with everything? So that might entail lawyers, that might entail accountants, that might entail, maybe depending on the relationship with this person, you're to an ex-husband or a husband, is maybe having that conversation with them if you've still got that relationship to do that. It just depends on the context. Obviously, this is a general answer to a general question, but I would make sure I regulate my emotions so I can see the full picture. Go get as much data as you can, legally, accountant-wise. I guess what happened with the details. How did he do it? Was it legal? Was it illegal? If he's stolen money just from the question, I'm assuming it's illegal. So I would be making sure I get as much data as I can, as much information as I can, making sure I'm as neutral and regulated as possible so that I can have the best probability to making a great decision, okay? So that's what I would recommend. How do I deal with overthinking things? Again, similar to the answer about rejection, there's nothing wrong with overthinking things. I'm an overthinker. I experienced, and I guess I was quite, in quotations, an anxious child growing up, and I still get a little bit socially anxious. I still get a little bit nervous, but the benefits of overthinking is you're very fucking prepared. Like when I've got a really tough conversation, whether it's a podcast or I've got to fire someone or I've got to have a tough conversation with someone, I overthink it. I think through that conversation before I have it, but that allows me to role play it and be really prepared for that. Like I run challenges and events and seminars, etc. Sometimes I overthink them, and it's not a bad thing. But again, you want to find the balance. You don't want to go too far where you're overthinking, you getting yourself into a bit of a panic attack and you're getting anxious and you're overwhelming yourself. It's finding the balance. How do you have your cake and eat it too? How can you overthink, be really prepared, which is the benefit of overthinking, but learn how to then regulate your emotions so then you can be poised and present and neutral, so then you can follow through and execute whatever it is that you're overthinking, okay? So a good tip, guys, this is the breathing pattern. Apologize, I just put some stuff in my nose. My nose is quite itchy right now, but for whoever's watching me live. So the breathing technique that I do use is I use 5-5-5. So I breathe in for 5 seconds, I hold it for 5 seconds, I let it out for 5 seconds. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this right now and you can do this, I want you to put your hand on your stomach and your other hand on your chest over the top of your heart. And you're going to breathe in for 5 seconds and you're going to aim to touch the bottom of the hand on your belly button. I want that breath to reach your bottom hand, okay? You're going to breathe in for 5, you're going to hold it for 5, and you're going to let it out for 5. You're going to do it on my count, okay? So on 3, we're going to breathe in, okay? 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you do that 5 times through and you're a lot more neutral, okay? The breath really can control the way that we feel, energetically, emotionally, okay? So breathe first and then move forward with what you're trying to deal with, okay? How do I better handle change? I've moved from an urban place to rural. It's really taken a toll on me. Similar answer. I don't want it to just be cliche stuff, but find the benefits to it, guys. Gratitude, anything you perceive outside of gratitude is a lopsided perception. So that means you're either seeing more positives to the situation and you're elated and you're fantasized and you're pedestaling something, or you've got see more negatives to it where you're putting it down, it's wrong, it's hurt, it's suffering. when gratitude is seen both. Love is the synthesis and synchronicity of complementary opposites, meaning you see just as many positives as the negatives. They synthesize together and it creates love. True love, not puppy love or infatuation, like when you pedestal someone, is seeing someone for their upsides, seeing someone for their downsides, and loving them exactly the way they are. So to be able to better handle change is to ask the question, what's stopping me from being grateful for this situation? What's stopping me from loving this situation? And finding either more positives or more negatives to keep your perceptions balanced, okay? I hope that made sense. Is it possible to become a positive thinker when if you're a person with a negative mind? Just copy and paste my previous answer. Everyone has negative, everyone has positive. You are not one-sided. We are not one-sided individuals. We are homeostatic individuals that have just as many complementary opposites as each other. So it is not you are positive or you are negative. You are both positive and both negative depending on the moment to moment that you're living in, okay? So absolutely correct. All right, I'm going to keep going with these questions, guys. What's the best way to detach from an ex? I can't because of our daughter. So again, there's probably a lot of factors within that question that I don't have the information of. Again, similar to the one about the gentleman stealing money, is I'd get as much data as you can. What is it that you're wanting to do? Because there's no right or wrong. I find this quite funny. A lot of people will come to me or they'll send me a message or on a coaching call and they say, what should I do? And it's not up to me. Like it's not my job to tell you what you should do. It's what do you want to do? And then based on the factors and the circumstances, what's your best plan of attack to give you the highest probability of getting what it is that you want? So the best way to detach is to handle that particular question, the best way to detach is to see that the thing that you're quote attached to is already in your life somewhere else. Because energy is never destroyed, it's only transferred. So for example, say you're really attached to your ex-partner because he gave you confidence. Then I would ask you the question, where since being away from your partner or splitting from your partner has confidence shown up in your life? Whether it's the form of an animal or a friend or a family member or someone on social media, confidence has now transformed in a different form. Maybe it's love. I'm missing his love and I'm attached to the love. Then where, since splitting with this person, has love shown up in your world? In a different form, different person, different face, different energy. It's somewhere else in your life. So that's how I detach from it. And you say you can't because of your daughter. Obviously, that's a big conversation about, I guess, the relationship, the legal circumstances and all that. So it's hard to comment on that without having more data. But I would learn to detach by seeing that everything that you're attached to this person is already in your life somewhere else in a different form. So you're not desperate. And then you can make decisions out of inspiration, not desperation. How to learn to be happy being alone. I love this question. This is a fantastic question. Thank you, Leo 321_. That's a great question. So I actually I've had this conversation a fair few times, and a lot of people avoid spending time with themselves because of the thoughts and the noise that goes on within their head. Now, going back to an answer I've used a couple of times about seeking balance, being homeostatic, seeking equilibrium, is your body wants to heal. Your mind, that includes your mind. It's like if you get a cut on your arm, you don't have to think and order your red blood cells or your white blood cells to go repair that cut on your arm. It just does it. So your body wants to heal, and that includes your mind. So if you've got a lot of pain and suffering and trauma and wrongs and whatever that's gone on in your life, and you haven't processed it, I filmed a video literally this morning on my Instagram and TikTok, and it's around traumas and how to heal trauma. Trauma is unprocessed memories. However, processing those memories can be fucking painful and very emotional. It can bring up a lot of wounds that you haven't healed through. So most people won't spend time by themselves because those thoughts are going to come up. So they distract themselves with social media, with drinking, with friends, with everything besides being by themselves. That's why meditation is so powerful. It's not about sitting there and thinking about nothing. That's a version of meditation, and that's more of the manifestation style, and that's actually my next question. But a great purpose of meditation is actually giving your mind the optimal environment to heal, because it wants to heal, but you're not giving it the environment to do so, because it requires the energy and the thoughts and your thoughts, the environment to breathe, and you're not giving it that opportunity in that environment to breathe properly because you're not spending time by yourself, because it can be quite scary and painful and emotions can come up. But that's how you do the work. And most people want to heal and want to get better, but they don't want to go through the pain. It's like saying, I want to be fit and healthy, but I don't want to go to the gym and experience the pain of training. Well, then don't be healthy then. Don't have a fit body. So if you want to have a fit mind and a balanced mind, it does require looking from within. It does require healing wounds. It does require healing traumas. And that can be fucking painful. That can be fucking emotional. That can hurt. That's why it's good to have a coach or a therapist or someone to guide you through that sometimes. But a lot of it you can actually do by yourself. That's through meditation, through journaling, through awareness. Yeah, that's so to answer the question, I didn't really answer the question. I gave you the context of the question, but to answer the question, which was how to be happy with it, I guess be comfortable with discomfort. Be okay that when you do spend time by yourself, not distracting yourself with social media, video games, drinking, partying, whatever it is, it's that you learn to actually sit within that discomfort. Because your mind will go to those things you haven't healed through. I mentioned before, traumas are unprocessed memories. Your mind wants to process it. Just like the cut on your arm, it wants to heal it. So that unprocessed memory, your mind's probably going to go there. So it's probably going to go think about your parents. Think about the ex-partner that cheated on you. Think about the abuse and the abandonment that you've been through, because it knows it's lopsided and it's not balanced, and it wants to balance that for you. There is a process I take clients through, and there's a process of what I do to help people work through that step by step systematically. But your mind actually has that magic within it. It has the intelligence within it. But again, most people don't want to do it because it's painful. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable and understand that pain is growth, and understand that your mind is going to go to those areas because your mind wants to be healthy and balanced, okay? And the treasure is buried where you're not looking, okay? I hope that answered the question. That was a great question. Do you believe in manifestation? I do. Now, just a tidbit on that is I don't believe in crossing your fingers and wishing for a Ferrari and then it's going to show up in your garage. But I do believe in becoming the person, energetically, frequency-wise, of who deserves the things that you want. So think about it right now. You watching this video, listening to this live video on Instagram still, or this podcast, the difference between you right now and the person who has the things that you want in the future, the business, the relationship, the finances, the whatever it is, the family, the health, whatever that may be. There's a difference between you now and that person in the future. There's skills that you're missing, there's beliefs that you're missing, and there's an energetic difference between the two people, right? You might be more confident, more poised, vibrate at a higher frequency, and I'm getting a little bit woo-woo with you right now. So my version of manifestation is get clear on your vision. Well, firstly, values, purpose, mission, then vision. So what's your vision? And who do you need to become? Skills, beliefs, energy, vibrationally, frequency-wise, to deserve that vision. And by becoming who deserves it, then you attract it. That's my version of manifestation. And that includes meditation. So you can do meditations where you get clear on your vision to the details, to the point that it feels real, and you breathe and circulate that energy throughout your body. And then again, then you'll become the person who deserves it, and you'll start to manifest it. So I do believe in it to a degree, but I don't believe in if you've seen the movie The Secret, there's value in it, so go watch it. But if you're experienced in self-development, I don't think it's the most valuable piece of information out there. I don't believe in crossing your fingers and hoping money rocks up into your bank account, because you got to take action, right? You got to go take the steps. You got to go do it. But I do believe in the part where you can, I guess, become the energy and the frequency of what it is that you want to attract. Okay. Hope that made sense. Good question though. How do I control emotions when you live in daily high stress? That's a good question. So it does come back to the breathing that I mentioned earlier. So learning how to regulate your emotions. So breathe, 5-5-5, etc. So I do believe in that will help out heaps. But taking time to regulate and recharge your batteries. Remember this quote. This is a write it down now if you're listening to this one. Maximum growth is on the borderline of support and challenge. Because think about this. Think about parents who challenge the shit out of their kids but never support them. You can break them. Then they end up on drugs. They end up in rehab. They end up just not believing in themselves because life is just beating them down. But then you can have the opposite, where you have challenged parents who over support their child. They bubble wrap them. They're helicopter parents. They never let them fall over and scrape their knee. That person, those kids, become very emotionally weak because they haven't been challenged enough to grow. So you need both. You need support and you need challenge. And on the borderline of that is where you grow the most. So when you're growing the most is probably when you're experiencing moments of stress, when you're in a stressful environment, but you've got to make sure that you have the opposite. You've got the support there to allow that growth to happen. So I guess to answer the question, how do I deal with it, is make sure I would be regulating emotions, whether that's through meditation, yoga, doing an ice bath, journaling, spending time in nature. Everyone has their own versions of, I guess, recharging. For me, I like to play video games. That recharges me. That was a coping mechanism of mine when I was younger. When my parents would fight, I would go to video games. So it was kind of my sanctuary, to be fair. So like I play video games probably on the weekend for maybe an hour or two over the weekend. And I really like it. It recharges me. I don't talk to anyone. Don't have to talk to my partner. Don't talk to my friends. Don't talk to anyone. It's like just my time to recharge. So find your way of recharging and I guess complementing that stress, because stress is good, because stress with support allows you to grow. So you're probably doing a lot of growth right now, but just make sure that you do have the amount of recharging needed to allow you to grow at the maximum level. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you for the question. Hi, could you give me some insight regarding how to change maladaptive habits formed to help cope with unhappiness, please? That's a really good question. Really, really good question. So maladaptive habits, just to give you guys a bit of context, it's the ways that you've been able to cope with things growing up. I actually mentioned one just then, video games. So I literally, I've got memories of my parents fighting verbally, not physically, but a lot of verbal confrontation. And my sanctuary was video games. So that was my way to adapt with it because it would distract me from it. Some people get anxious. Some people turn to drugs. Some people turn to sex. Some people, they find something to cope, right? So this is a beautiful thing. This ties into limiting beliefs. This ties into toxic habits. This ties into so many things. It's a really, really good question. But everything that you do, consciously or unconsciously, there are more benefits to doing it. Let's use an example that most people can relate to. Let's use the gym. Some people love going to the gym. Some people don't really give a shit. And some people hate going to the gym. Let's use the polar opposites. So if I was to go up to someone and who loves going to the gym, I would ask them, why do you love going to the gym? They would say, it makes me happy, it makes me fulfilled, it makes me strong, it helps my mental health, it helps me with my confidence, it helps me with my career, it helps me in my relationship. And they've neurologically wired themselves to do this thing because there's so many conscious and unconscious benefits to it. And if you go to the person who hates going to the gym and you ask them, why do you hate going to the gym? They would say, I feel unconfident, I feel fucking sore, I get sweaty, I feel embarrassed, I feel creeped on at the gym, it's a waste of money, I've never been able to maintain it anyways, what's the point? And they will have all these unconscious or conscious negatives to doing it. So the reason you've picked up these maladaptive habits, for me, video games, for some people drugs, for some people sex, for some people disassociating and just isolating yourself, that was actually another one of mine as well, is it actually served you at some point. So what you want to do, this is a visualization exercise that I do with my clients. There's a physical written version and then we visualize on it on top of that, is you want to ask these questions. I'm just going to remember them for you right now. First one is, what is the belief or the action or the maladaptive habits that you've picked up? Okay, so what are they? They might be disassociation. It might be anxiety. It might be drugs. It might be whatever the ones I've mentioned, and there's many, many other ones. Some people, it actually is going to the gym, because I've got friends and I've had clients who train 2-3 times a day, not out of inspiration, but to avoid the pain in their life. So to avoid being with their partner, they go to the gym. So that's another thing. It's just a more empowering way to do it, but it's still out of disempowering reasons. And anyway, so I would write down, what is it that you're doing? What is the consequence or the consequences in your life so far because of this habit? Is it what friends, relationships, opportunities have suffered because of this belief or this pattern or this habit? Next question. Where did this come from? Where did you pick up this habit or behavior or pattern? Where did it come from? Was it your parents were fighting? You went through pain? You were abandoned? Where did it come from? Now this is a challenging one. What was the benefits of it originally? For me, I went to video games because it avoided the pain. It distracted me from the pain of my parents fighting. So that's why I did it. So there was benefits to doing what it is that you're doing, that you did, and you might still be doing. And then the next question, what can you do? What's the new, more empowering habit you want to do? So instead of smoking a cigarette, you want to meditate instead, right? Both of them cure stress or help you regulate and feel better. One's a little bit more empowering for you, right? Stretching, yoga, meditation versus smoking a cigarette. So what's the new empowering way you want to have instead? But on that question as well, that still can satisfy the benefits to why you did the old one to start with. So say, for example, the example I just used is a really good example. So if you're smoking cigarettes to help you deal with stress, what can you do instead that will still give you the benefit of why you did it originally? So cigarettes, generally you're stressed, so you smoke, it takes care of the stress. That's the benefit of it. So what can you do instead that's more empowering for your life, but still gives you the benefit of why you started it in the first place? Because most people don't do that second part, is they'll stop smoking cigarettes, but they won't actually do something to still give them that benefit. So if you stop smoking and then you've got all this stress in your life, you're probably going to go back to smoking, or you're going to go back to something else, might go back to drinking, or might go back to food. So you want to replace the disempowering habit with an empowering one. Okay, so don't just stop doing what you're doing. You want to replace it with something that's a little bit more empowering for you. Okay, great question. I hope that answered your question. How do you, excuse me while I read this, how do you rationalize a breakup due to their extenuating family commitments? That's a good question. So I answered a similar relationship question earlier. It's you got to get clear on the vision. What's the vision of your relationship? And you've got to communicate that to your partner. So, for example, my partner has a very high value of family compared to me. So I go through values. It's the foundation of human behavior. It's one of the biggest things that I teach to my clients. And values is what I always do first because it gives you clarity on who you are, what's important to you, what's intrinsically meaningful to you. And say you've got a partner who has a high value on family, and you don't. And they've got these expectations that you've got to spend an hour a week or 2 hours a week or whatever X amount of commitments with their family. But if that's taken away from your values, you're going to feel guilty, you're going to feel resentment, and you're going to have this negative energy towards your partner. So what I would recommend for both of you is both of you get clear on your values and both of you appreciate that you both need to fill up your own individual cups for you to be full. Otherwise, you're pouring from an empty cup, right? And if you're then putting other people's values, whether it's your partner or anyone in life, but if you're putting other people's values ahead of your own, you're going to beat yourself up. You're going to devalue yourself. You're going to feel guilt, resentment, stress, negative emotions. So you've got to get clear on what are your values, set boundaries within them, and they just need to understand why. Because if you just say, look, I'm not going to see your parents because I don't want to, then that means you don't love me. That means you don't want to be with me, blah, blah, blah. Because in that person's world, in your partner's world, he or she might have this belief that if they don't like my family, that means they don't like me because of their experiences growing up and how they view family structures, etc. So once you get clear on what are each other's values and understand everyone's individual, everyone has their own unique set of values. And if you do not fill up your own cup and be selfish to be selfless, then you're going to be devaluing yourself and you're going to be putting that negative resentment or energy into the person who's putting their values ahead of your own, okay? So I hope that made sense. That can be a little bit confusing without stepping it out step by step, but I really hope that made sense. All right, I'm going to have a quick scroll, guys. We've been going for about 20, almost 30 minutes now. I'm going to wrap this up very soon. How do I control our emotions, or any tips on reprogramming our subconscious mind to think positively? Awesome. I've actually kind of answered that in previous questions. So learn to regulate, like I said. And those patterns that I told you about, how you've done them for a reason. There was a benefit to having them originally. Same thing goes with our beliefs. I went through limiting beliefs is another tool that I take my clients through. I did this process on myself about 4 months ago, and there was a belief I went through. My limiting belief was I don't know. So I don't know how to. So that limiting belief would stop me from building my business. It would stop me from take my partner out on dates because I don't know where to go. I don't know where to do. I don't know. How do I build a mastermind, which I'm working on at the moment, if I don't know how to do it, right? So that belief of I don't know was limiting me, hence the name limiting belief, and it would stop me from moving forward in my life. But you need to go through and just do the same questions. Where did it come from? How has it suffered or caused suffering in your life so far? What people, friends, family, opportunities have been lost because of it? Where did it come from? What was the benefit? Because that benefit for me, when I was younger, I have a lot of pain around making friends and socializing. by me not knowing, it made me really good at making friends. Because if I didn't know much and then the person I'm talking to knows everything, then I'm going to be a good question asker. And people like to talk about themselves, and people like to answer questions that they want to answer. So by me not knowing, it makes me ask a lot of questions, which makes me build friendships. So that not knowing made me a great friend maker. Gave me the ability to make friends really easily. So there was benefits to that, but then you want a more empowering one, but still take care of the benefits of the old pattern or the old belief. Okay, hope that made sense. In love with a person who doesn't love me back, what to do? Tell them how you feel. Don't get attached to them, because remember, that trait is showing up somewhere else in your life. And again, get clear on your vision. If they are the right fit for it, but they don't want to be there, obviously it's not going to work. It takes two to tango. And I would honestly move on. Guys, I'm going to wrap up. I think there's some more questions, fantastic questions. I can see them, having a quick scroll through. Guys, I will do more Q&As. I hope you guys got value from this. For the guys listening to the podcast, I hope you guys got value from this as well. If you did enjoy this, please connect with me, send a message with me. If you're interested in my signature program, my Inspired Life Method, let me know, hit me up. I've got links on my Instagram. I've got links on my website as well, lewishuckstep.com. And guys, I look forward to connecting with you all. I hope you got value from this. Have an amazing day. I appreciate you guys watching this. If you got value, if you could send it to one person or one friend, like, subscribe. I do appreciate it. Have a beautiful day, guys. I'll speak to you soon. See ya.